Okay. I have to say, when Reverend Lauren initially asked me to do this, my first response was, no, I'm good. And then she told me, well, you'll be talking about music, and music is my passion. It is part of what allows me to breathe on a day-to-day basis. And so I reluctantly agreed, but I agreed nonetheless. Now, I will tell you, I am not a preacher. I am a speaker. And it is my point to speak my whole truth, and nothing but my truth. And I can only hope that my truth resonates with you. I believe in liberation. If you will indulge me for a moment, I'd like to share a story with you. My sophomore year of high school, I had the opportunity to travel to Haiti. I went with a group of people to work within orphanages in Port-au-Prince. And as you can imagine, we would tour around the capital area and much of the towns that are in the area. Now, while our guides were English speaking, many of the people that we encountered were not. Now, at this point, I had taken a little bit of French, and so I knew how to introduce myself, I knew how to count to 20, and I could say the alphabet. Needless to say, I did not converse much with the natives of the land. But if I could elaborate on all of the time there, I could tell you that it changed my life. It helped me to learn so much about the privileges that we have here in this country and the ways in which we are blessed even in our struggle. But I won't go over all of that. I'd like to just bring you to one magical night. So one of our young guides who was around our age, who later became my boyfriend in the trip, a boyfriend that could last as long as before cell phones and living in two separate countries and two teenagers trying to write letters to one another consistently. He decided he wanted to take us to one of his favorite places to just go and hang out one night. And so a group of us left and we went to the local market area that was quiet, a bit more quiet at night than what it was during the day, and we walked into this open space bar. There we listened and there was music playing from the boombox, there were people dancing, people playing cards, just having a great time. And I could easily tell that this was their second home. This was where they came to relieve stress and the worries of the day. Now, as the music was playing, later on in the night, a group of people started to walk in and they were carrying hand drums, they were carrying guitars, all types of acoustic instruments. And just as what seemed natural, people began to gather around them. They began to play. Now, my boyfriend knew that I love music, and so he leans over and he says, "You should sing." And I looked at him, I'm sure like a deer in headlights, and said, "No." Well, because at that point, my young mind could not wrap around what I could possibly sing to people that did not speak the same language as I. I didn't know how I could relate to the music that they were offering, nor what I could bring to the table. So instead, I sat and I drank my ice-cold Coca-Cola, and I sat back in my chair, closed my eyes, and just listened to the music. And people danced, and they did their thing. Well, as I sat there with my eyes closed, suddenly I was transported. This music had taken me to a place that was unfamiliar to me, but yet it felt like home. And all together at once, this sound started coming from me. I couldn't explain what it was. I couldn't explain exactly what I was saying, but something was coming from my mouth that I could not describe. But it felt like home. It felt natural. It felt like it was something ancestral. At that night, we held a conversation. We talked about our past, we talked about our futures, we talked about our hopes, all through music. And that was one of the best conversations I've ever had. Now, if you will, I'd like to ask that you would indulge me on a time-traveling journey, a journey through music and liberation. I'd like to take you back to the point where my ancestors were forced into this country, hearts filled with fear, pain, and confusion, unable to speak or be understood in their native tongue. I think of the drum. the heartbeat that held and joined them together, the drum that spoke words that others could not understand. I think the moans that became the melodies and began to shape our stories and our path towards freedom, as well as the music that we know today. As time proceeded, our words began to sound the same, and we began to seek out ways towards liberation. Through codes and messages, we worked our way to heaven where salvation might be. We worked our way to freedom. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. I believe in liberation. This was a song of liberation. This song, born before we could be a twinkle in anyone's eye, gave folks a path to freedom. It is believed that Harriet Tubman, who made 13 trips to the South and helped more than 70 people, used this song to warn slaves to get off the trail and into the water to prevent dogs used by slavers from finding them. George L. White, Fisk University's treasurer and music professor, created the Fisk Jubilee Singers in 1871. They sang Wade in the Water as they toured across the country. And what I find most interesting about that fact is that they sang the very song that helped to free their people to the very people that held them captive. How much more bold can you be? I believe in liberation. With fiddles in our hands and our feet as drums, someone got hold to a piano and gospel stepped into the mix. Giving our spiritual something steady to hold on to, we offered rhythm that our souls could shout to. With the shaking of a tambourine, we proclaimed that the gates of heaven were open for us, that the sea could be split for us, and that justice would rain down and liberate us to freedom. The chord changes and melodies of gospel music came from an aching desire to be treated as the human beings we were. I know it was a blood. I know it was a blood. I know it was a blood for me. Well, one day when I was lost, he died upon the cross, and I know it was a blood for me. I believe in liberation. I know it was the blood reminded us that we were not suffering alone, that Jesus walked with us and that God was for us and that trouble don't last always. Spirituals, ring shouts, folk music, all producing sounds which told stories. Stories of the past, stories leading to the future, stories of love, hurt, hope, fear, and faith, stories that got us through. We move down the timeline and the blues is born. The blues helped us to say what we really felt. No longer coded message, now just right into your face saying what I gotta say. They say I do it, ain't nobody call me, you sure got to prove it on me. I went out last night with a crowd of my friends. It must been women's, 'cause I don't like no men's. Well, it's true, I wear a collar and tie, make the wind blow all the while. They say I do it, ain't nobody call me, you sure got to prove it on me. Ma Rainey, mother of the blues, was a woman not afraid to love who she loved when she wanted to love. She sang that song and recorded entitled Prove It On Me in 1928. Unafraid to be her authentic self, she changed the status quo and offered liberation to those who would follow in her footsteps. I believe in liberation. Soon after the blues, jazz came to be. Swirling notes around as if they were meant to leap off the page, jazz spoke to our freedom to step outside the lines. Pulling from its older sibling, the blues, jazz was the love story, the flower growing from the ashes. Still telling stories that were familiar to us, stories that were shaping this time of freedom, dance, imagination, segregation, and surviving Jim Crow. Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves, blood at the root, black bodies swinging from the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Strange Fruit, a song written and composed by Abel Meeropol and recorded by Billie Holiday in 1939. The lyrics were drawn from a poem by Meeropol protesting the lynching of black bodies in America. I believe in liberation. Rock and roll. Woo, rock and roll, born from rhythm and blues, was the crazy youngest stepchild of the family that came through and shook the room. The strong backbeat of the music forced folks to tap their feet and get out of their seats. Sometimes I will, then again I think I won't. Well, sometimes I will, then again I think I don't. Sometimes I do, then again I think I don't. Y'all all should know this. Well, it's looked at my watch, it was 9:21, rocking and a-rolling with nothing but fun. Then we rolled, rocking and a-rolled. We was reeling and a-rocking, rocking till the break of dawn. If y'all know who that is and you're not familiar with St. Louis. Chuck Berry, Louis Jordan, Bo Diddley, and others changed the way we dance to music. They helped to liberate our minds, but more importantly, they helped to liberate our bodies. We moved in ways that gave us space and presence. I believe in liberation. Moving as though our bodies were like on fire. Music spoke to our need for freedom, our need for justice, and our need for equality. From Marvin Gaye and Martha and the Vandells to the Supremes, the art of rhyme was what our bodies needed. As we marched in the streets, sat at lunch counters, rode buses, walked into schools, we sang together, hand in hand, making our way towards human rights. Well, the only chains that we can stand are the chains of hand and hand. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. Well, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. I believe in liberation. This time-traveling journey that we just shared is American history. It is a foundation on which this country was built. It is our history. We cannot deny that. The moment that we begin to acknowledge our American history, our full American history, is liberation. I am the hope and the dreams of my ancestors. We have not yet reached the promised land, but as we wander through this desert, I have hope. I think about these former slaves traveling with Moses, trying to find their way towards freedom. I think about the slaves traveling the Underground Railroad, seeking freedom. I think about the Jews hiding their lives, waiting for freedom. I think about the refugees traveling from Palestine, Syria, and Mexico, trying to find their way towards freedom. And I wonder what songs are sung, what melodies play through their minds to ease their weary souls. I wonder what melodies they create to push them to go a little further, to do a little more. If the rhythm that beats in their hearts reminds them to keep going. I wonder if the sound that they produce are the same sounds and songs sung by our ancestors. I wonder if they are the same ones that help to ease the hearts and minds of those suffering. I believe in liberation. I believe we have much work to do. From Palestine to Oakland to New York, from Chicago to St. Louis, we are called for liberation. We are called to freedom. We are called to equal housing. We are called to financial equity. We are called to sexual freedom. We are called to food equality. We are called to control gun violence. We are called to keep saying that Black lives matter until we make them matter. We are called to stand and fight for our trans siblings. We are called for free quality, mind you, I said quality education. We are called to equal health care. We are called to do more than we have ever done. You all are a little quiet. I don't know if you heard what I said. I believe in liberation. I believe that free people can free people. I believe that there is enough for everyone. I believe that we have to stop waiting for Jesus to return to do what we are called to do. I believe in the words of Spock. Yes, I said Spock, that we must all live long and prosper. We can only truly prosper when our neighbors are able to do the same. I believe in liberation. From the crack house to the White House, we must push for liberation for all people. And so I will sing. I will sing the songs that push the boundaries. From Tupac to Leontine Price, I will sing. I will use my voice as hope until all can hear me. I will sing. From Jimi Hendrix to Lil Nas, I will sing until all decide to listen. I will shout and make a joyful noise until I see the promised land. And if, like Moses, I don't make it there, I will go knowing that I sang for generations to come. I will sing for liberation. I dare you to do the same. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Come on, sing it with me. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. I believe in liberation, and I hope and I pray that you will work with me towards liberation. Amen.